Number 8. Francine Blair Bogamill. On April the 30th of 2020, a Florida lawyer caused chaos at the home of her former husband by crashing her SUV into his garage and physically assaulting him. 40-year-old Francine Blair Bogamill left her children aged 5 and 11 alone at her house and then drove to her ex's Orange County address. She plowed her Land Rover into his stationary GMC Yukon and launched into the garage. The force of the impact reportedly pushed the door 2 to 3 feet inward. Bogamill's ex-husband came outside to find her throwing objects at his girlfriend's BMW and smashing the vehicle's windows. The lawyer charged the other woman, but her former husband got between them. The man was slapped twice by Bogamill, at which point he retaliated with a slap of his own. An Orange County Sheriff's deputy arrived at the scene and attempted to stop Bogamill from shouting threats at her ex's girlfriend. She refused to do so and spat on the deputy. Bogamill was taken into custody, and days after posting bond, she violated a restraining order by contacting her ex and his girlfriend. She threatened to ruin the former's life and to go after his girlfriend's family if she didn't stay away from her children. Bogamill was charged with multiple counts that included aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, assault on a law enforcement officer, domestic violence battery, and criminal mischief. She pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 51 weeks in jail, while a judge recommended she be permanently disbarred. Number 6. Jennifer Emmy. In August of 2021, a Colorado animal rights lawyer was sentenced to 10 years in prison for solicitation, retaliation against a witness or victim, and stalking. The charges stemmed from a campaign of abuse that 43-year-old Emmy had led against her estranged husband and his girlfriend, while she and the former were locked in a divorce battle. It was a publicized fall from grace for the lawyer whose work with animals had turned her into a media celebrity. There had been multiple instances of aggressive and volatile behavior on Emmy's behalf, dating back to January of 2020. Some of the lowest points included holding a knife to her husband's throat and threatening to drive a tractor trailer into one of their children. Emmy's campaign culminated with her trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband's girlfriend, who'd worked as an au pair for the couple. In November of 2020, she started talking to 28-year-old Timothy Lindsay, a ranch hand at her Evergreen property, and asked if he knew someone who could get rid of the woman. Lindsay played along and assumed the role of broker for the nefarious affair. Emmy offered up the purported target's name and workplace, claiming that money wouldn't be a problem even after Lindsay had told her it may cost up to $100,000. She also suggested killing her husband as well by disguising the hit as a car accident. Lindsay alerted the authorities, who initiated a 6-month-long operation focused on Emmy. It came to include extortion attempts, blackmail, and undercover meetings before the lawyer was booked into Jefferson County Jail and subsequently sentenced. Number 5. Rouge Rahman and Colin Mattis. 2 New York lawyers each pleaded guilty to a single count of possessing or making a destructive device in October of 2021, in a case that involved the throwing of a Molotov cocktail. Following the death of George Floyd, protests erupted in many areas of the US, including Brooklyn. Rouge Rahman, a tenant rights lawyer in the Bronx, and Colin Mattis, an associate at Pryor Cashman, had taken part in the street demonstrations in May of 2020. Rahman threw a gasoline-filled bottle into an empty NYPD vehicle and then fled in a minivan driven by Mattis. Rahman was also reported to have attempted distributing Molotov cocktails to other protesters. Her lawyer argued that she and Mattis didn't deserve to be imprisoned, as they'd acted in the heat of the moment during one of the most turbulent nights in modern American history. However, because an explosive device was involved, they were investigated under a law that viewed them as a threat to national security. The pair, both in their 30s, each faced up to 10 years in prison and accepted that the guilty plea would likely result in them being disbarred. Number 4. Keegan Harrows. In 2020, Oklahoma City defense attorney Keegan Harrows, aged 37, was connected to a triple homicide which had occurred in September of the previous year. Tiffany Icor, aged 43, was gunned down at her residence near Beggs along with her parents, Jack and Evelyn K. Chandler, both in their 60s. At the time, Harrows was defending Barry Titus in a felony domestic assault case against Icor. In 2017, only a few months after they'd started dating, Titus was accused of beating and strangling her, which caused the woman to file for a protective order against him. At some point, Harrows and her client became romantically involved, and it's believed that she'd had an active role in the shooting. Surveillance footage from Eichel's residence showed two masked intruders approaching the house on foot, one of whom was very tall and described as obviously male by the authorities, while the other was much smaller. They'd pulled up near the home in a vehicle, the description of which matched Harrows' 2010 Lexus sedan. The intruders cut the power supply before breaking down the door and shooting the three victims multiple times with two different caliber weapons. Harrows pleaded guilty to federal weapons charges after an AR-15 rifle believed to have been used in the triple killing was found in her possession. Harrows was sentenced to 2 years in prison on the weapons charge, and it remains to be determined if she'll be convicted for the murders as well. Number 3. Murdoch family. From 1920 to 2006, 3 members of the Murdoch family consecutively served as district attorney in a 5-county district of South Carolina that aptly became known as Murdoch County. Scion Alex Murdoch was a lawyer at the family's firm, but didn't continue down the path of his great-grandfather, grandfather, and father as South Carolina's top prosecutor. Started in 2019, a series of events with Murdoch at their core would send shockwaves through the state and eventually cast aspersions on the family's relationship with its judicial system. In February, Murdoch's underage son Paul caused a boat crash that resulted in the death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach. Paul wasn't given a field sobriety, nor was he booked into jail or even handcuffed. His blood alcohol at the time was reportedly almost 3 times the legal limit for operating a motor vehicle. Witnesses offered virtually no usable information for fear of the family's influence. On June the 7th of 2021, Murdoch called the police to report he'd found the bodies of his wife, Maggie, aged 52, and 22-year-old Paul. They'd been shot multiple times and with different weapons outside the family's hunting lodge in Islandton. Murdoch's alibi was that he'd been spending time with his terminally ill father and his mother, a dementia sufferer. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, revealed in October of 2021 that Murdoch had always been a suspect, but didn't comment further. Murdoch would eventually be forced to resign from his family's firm after allegedly mishandling funds worth millions of dollars. A day later, on September the 4th of 2021, he was shot in the head while changing a tire on the side of the road. It would later be revealed that Murdoch himself had hired a former client to execute him so that Buster, his other son, would get his $10 million life insurance. Murdoch sustained only a superficial wound and was arrested on pending fraud charges. In the aftermath of his wife and son's murder, SLED launched an investigation into the 2015 death of Stephen Smith, a high school classmate of Buster, and into the 2018 death of Murdoch's housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. 19-year-old Smith was found dead on a rural road from blunt force trauma, while Satterfield was reported to have tripped and fallen, but was never autopsied or examined by a coroner. Allegations of a Murdoch cover-up marred both incidents. Number 2. Kent Moore-Hinney. 50-year-old Connecticut woman Jennifer Dulles was last seen on May the 24th of 2019. A few years earlier, Dulles had filed for divorce from her husband, Fotis, and their tumultuous separation as well as custody proceedings were ongoing at the time of her disappearance. During their marriage, Fotis had begun having an affair with his colleague, Michelle Troconis. As the investigation progressed, evidence indicated that Fotis and Troconis had been responsible for Dulles' murder, and they were both arrested. A DNA sample from blood found at Dulles' home was a match to both the victim and her estranged husband, indicating that she'd been assaulted. Fotis and Troconis were captured by surveillance cameras dumping garbage bags in 30 bins around Hartford. Some of them were found to contain clothes and cleaning items with blood on them that was confirmed as Dulles'. Fotis, initially arrested for tampering with evidence, was charged with capital murder on January the 7th of 2020, and Troconis was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Later that month, while out on bail and awaiting trial, 52-year-old Fotis took his own life via carbon monoxide poisoning, leaving behind a note claiming that he refused to spend time in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Further revelations followed, implicating Fotis' attorney and longtime friend Kent Moore-Hinney in the conspiracy. The authorities believed he'd been working with Fotis and Troconis to provide an alibi for them the day Dulles went missing. Additionally, a shallow grave, bags of lime, and a blue tarp were discovered on a secluded property that the lawyer owned. It's been proposed that the grave had been dug for dollars, but no human remains were discovered inside, as the police searched it with cadaver dogs. Dulles' body was never found. Mulhenny was charged with conspiracy to commit murder and initially held on a $2 million bond, but it was subsequently reduced. In October of 2020, he was released with a GPS ankle monitor and lost his legal license in the scandal's wake. According to speculative updates on the case, Mulhenny was believed to have become a key witness for the prosecution's efforts against Troconis. Number 1. Reagan Younger. Florida lawyer Reagan Younger was arrested in March of 2021 as the main suspect in a fatal shooting that had occurred in early November of the previous year. 42-year-old Younger had been closely watched by law enforcement after a victim, whose identity remained undisclosed, was gunned down at the Sheraton Hotel in Maitland. The incident was described as a drug deal gone awry. Orange County deputies decided to move in for the arrest after noticing Younger and another woman loading bags into a Honda Civic with Tennessee plates outside her office. As the authorities searched the bags, they recovered a loaded 9mm handgun, several grams of methamphetamine, smoking pipes, and a pink scale. Younger's case is ongoing, but according to updates, there were witnesses and material evidence placing her at the scene and pointing to her as the shooter. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be represented by an elite lawyer for a crime you did commit, or represent yourself while being innocent? Let us know in the comments section below.